Today, we're looking at Birmingham Pen Company's Southside Park Fern Moss. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Birmingham Pen Company's Southside Park Fern Moss is a green ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Nemesine Singularity to take my notes for this video. Now, before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this gray across the bottom that's pushing up. And we see yellows and browns come in, and this very nice bright blue across the top. Now that brown that's occurring between the yellow and the blue is a very light brown. It's really surprising here. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And what appeared to be gray shows itself as more of a darker blue-gray line. So while I thought it was gray looking at the original chromatography, it may be a light blue-gray tone. Now that pushes up. We still see the yellows. We still see little hints of the brown that was there and that same blue. But I expect there to be a bit of resistance to this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the paper and how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Going to be a good one. So buckle up. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself very well. That extra fine becomes about a fine, not much spread at all, not blurry, easy to read, good for note taking. Look at the water. The amount of what's left when the water was there for only 30 seconds. Now, the water's lifting all of the other tones, but that kind of dark blue gray is absolutely not moving from the paper. Not with water. Same problem with pen flush. Pen flush did nothing that water didn't do. This ink's resistance portion really gets in there kind of aggressively. 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the paper, and it will completely remove it from your pen. But when you use that 1/3 bleach solution, you have to immediately flush your pen out with water. This is kind of an aggressive ink. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Birmingham Pen Company's Southside Park Fern Moss has a viscosity of 1.69, making it very wet. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Birmingham Pen Company's Southside Park Fern Moss has an average dry time of 11 seconds, making it a faster drying ink. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and I've done my best to use it up because I don't like throwing inks out. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. This is what I have to use to open the samples because they make messes. I'm going to move on and try not to harp on that. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is an incredibly light tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading. Which is weird when it's very light like that. But no shade. The extra fine is significantly darker, and it can't help but be significantly darker because the 1.1 is so light. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade whatsoever, with 6 seconds to dry. Now, the medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both of them show us no color variation, and we didn't get any color variation.
The smear test. You could recover this if you smeared it. Yeah. Tomoe River. We get no bleeding. We get ghosting. It is Tomoe River. The 1.1. Super light. Still, no feather spread, halo sheen. There are some darker spots. The K in Park looks a little bit darker. The top of the B looks a little bit darker. The E in Southside looks a little bit darker. So there is some shading spots. Hippie. The extra fine is a significantly darker tone than the 1.1. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 10 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine, with no feather spread. It has halo. How about that? All of a sudden, this one has halo here. No sheen, no shade. 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any, but the medium is showing the halo that we get with the medium writing. The smear test. I believe you could recover these if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is still way too light. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen. There are a couple darker spots, so it does show some shading, like the B in Birmingham, the H in Southside, the K in Park. Little bit darker letters. The extra fine is a significantly darker tone than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 7 seconds to dry. The medium is a darker tone than the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both of them show us no color variation where it looks a little lighter here. That's the white showing through, and it's an illusion on your eye because I didn't fill that in as completely as I should have. But we didn't get any color variation. The smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. So, lavender paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is still too light to really use. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade whatsoever. The extra fine is a significantly darker tone than the 1.1. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 5 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both of them show us no color variation, and we got none. And the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Black and red notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. This is a standout all-star on less expensive notebooks. They're not cheap, but they are less expensive. The 1.1, significantly light tone. It's just too light. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. There's 2 dark spots. The H in Southside, where the G came down onto it, looks a little bit darker. And the K in Park looks a little bit darker. But that's it. The extra fine, a significantly darker tone than the 1.1. Has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 6 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. Now when I look at the scrubbies, the medium shows me no color variation. The extra fine on the far left to far right, I do see some color variation, but I got none up here. The smear test, I believe you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. And this is Strathmore calligraphy paper. Nice laid paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1. Wow, you're light. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a significantly darker tone than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 5 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both of them show us, well, the medium shows us no color variation. The extra fine shows some, but there's no color variation up here whatsoever. But the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. And that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Birmingham Pen Company's Southside Park Fern Moss, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I wanted a red, and I chose Noodler's Park Red. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Birmingham Pen Company's Southside Park Fern Moss? It has an incredibly wide range of tones that it gives, from an extra fine dry pen to an extra fine wet pen. Don't even get me into what happens when it's a broad wet pen. It is wildly unpredictable other than the fact that it's green. Now, sometimes having some variation that you get in tones is nice, but again, I have found my tone variation to be unpredictable from this particular ink. I don't mind dark green inks. This can be a very dark green ink. This can be a light green ink and an incredibly light green ink and such a dark green ink that you almost think it might be kind of a black with a green. It's so unpredictable in the pen. I was having some difficulties really nailing down certain things. It made me happy I have this ink only in a sample. Thanks for watching.